Afternoon, everyone. Welcome to JJC Jersey's virtual chat. I am Brittany with the Discover Dairy program, and we are so excited that you're joining us today as we get to meet Farmer Jodi and, of course, your adorable calves, Scarlet and Bella. First, this live chat is part of the Adopt a Cow program. More than 43,000 teachers and 1.7 million students join the fund for free every year, thanks to our generous supporters like the Midwest Dairy Association and the Dairy Excellence Foundation. If you've enjoyed this year and want to enroll next year, registration is open today. We just opened it yesterday. You can go to discoverdairy.com/adopt, and there you can either log in and re-enroll, or if you're new to the program, you can go ahead and go to that link, create an account, and get started. Next, today's event is live, and you can see that that chat is open. We're excited to hear from you. I know we're excited to hear your questions, and Farmer Jodi's ready to answer them. Before we go over to Farmer Jodi, though, let's see who's joining us today. So, starting at the top, we've got Miss Rolfe, who adopted Scarlet. So, hello and all. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have some folks from Indianola who also had Bella. So, hello, Miss May's class. We're excited to have you. We have some folks from Mitchell, South Dakota. Hello. Miss Hogan's class in Gretna, Nebraska. Hi, all. Thank you for joining us. We've got Kearney, Nebraska, who is excited to see Bella. Believe me, we are excited to see Bella, too. Let's see. We've got Miss Mainsburg, who adopted Scarlet. They're from Bellwood. Hello, all. Thanks for joining us. And let's see. Let's do one more here. We've got some folks from Arlington, South Dakota, who are excited to see Scarlet, and it's a preschool class. So, hi, preschoolers. We're so excited to have you. Thank you so much for joining us today. As you now know where that chat is, go ahead and if you think of any questions as we're talking, get them in that chat. We're excited to answer them, and I know Farmer Jodi's excited to hear from you. Speaking of Farmer Jodi, I would like to introduce you to her. Hey, Farmer Jodi, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. The weather is a little cloudy, but we're happy to be here and happy to introduce all you kids and teachers to our Scarlet and Bella. So welcome.
Oh, yay, thank you so much. Oh, it's been so much fun getting to know you and your farm and your adorable girls all year long. They have just been two of the sweetest little jerseys. I've loved getting your pictures and your updates from you, Farmer Jodi. Now, before we go and get an update on them, I'd love to just hear a little bit more about you, if you don't mind. Like, what's your role on the farm? Just a little bit about your farm. I would love to hear it.
Okay, so my kids that are working on the farm, they're fourth generation on the
Wow.
dairy, and I actually have a full-time job off the farm.
Okay.
On my days off, I come back and I help fill in where is necessary. Usually that's helping to milk.
Mhm.
Um, but the kids all have their own role and either feeding the animals or blading the lots up or helping milk, or even Ben does the breeding and Livy
Um,
does the calves. So yeah, everybody has their own role and they just fill in where it's needed.
That's awesome. You know, it's funny, Farmer Jodi. I remember, I think you've been doing this program for almost 5 years now. And I kind of remember when your kids just started like getting bigger kid responsibilities, right? When they were just
Yep,
like
yep.
starting to be responsible for things. And now they're taking over. They're doing all the things on the farm. It's just amazing to hear that they're just so involved with you and just helping with not only our cows, but I think there's some other animals on your farm too. Is that correct?
Yeah, we do have some dairy goats. Of course, they're dairy goats. We do have a few chickens, quite a few chickens. So yeah, we've got some other animals that keep us busy on the farm also.
That's cool. Dairy goats. I think that sounds really neat. So you've got all the dairy taken care of, it sounds like. The dairy goats, they don't milk in the same area that our cows do they? Or do you have a whole different
No,
system for them?
nope. They have their own barn where Ben and Olivia, that's kind of their area. So
Okay.
when they're not doing the cows or the calves, they're taking care of the goats and getting them milked and fed and make sure they're doing the best they can do.
That's cool. Oh, thank you for sharing that. That's really
Yeah.
neat that you guys are able to kind of have a little bit of a variety on your farm. Now, of course, we've loved getting to follow along our cute girls this year. So we'd love to get an update on them. So let's get some spotlight on them here. We've got, oh, They're gonna give us our butts, aren't they?
Well,
they're
there's
so we've got Bella and we've got Scarlet. Oh my goodness, they're getting so big. Now,
they
Farmer
are.
Jodi, can you remind us which one is which, first of all?
So if I could get him to turn and look at you a little bit, Scarlet has the white spot on her head, and Bella does not have the white spot. So that's
Oh,
a
hi,
great way to
Scarlet.
to tell them apart. They're they seem to be a little camera shy today. So
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
Bella's giving us a
there's
little look
Bella.
here.
She's
Hopefully
given the
they'll
profile.
yeah, they'll hopefully work it out for us. Now, I mean, I think
Yeah.
they're a little bit anxious, right? Just because this isn't their normal pen, right? They usually
No,
are somewhere
this,
else. Is that correct?
yep, usually they're in a big lot. It does have a shed on it, but usually it's a much bigger space and with
Mhm.
many more animals in there, many more friends of theirs in there. So yeah,
Gotcha.
this is a new space.
It's a little bit different for them. They're probably like, can we get back to our food and our friends now?
Yeah, yeah,
Well, we'll just take 20 more minutes of your time, girls, and then you can go back to your friends
yes.
in your pen. Oh my goodness. So I know at our 6 month update, we'll start with Bella. Bella was 165 pounds. How heavy do you think? How much do you think she weighs now?
I would guess she's about 200 pounds now. They've
Wow.
since they don't I don't know, it's different with the season and the changes in the weather.
Mm-hmm.
When the weather warms up, they really come out and they really seem to want to grow. It's like the sunshine makes them grow, just like your flowers and your plants.
Oh.
So they've really put on some nice weight. So they look good.
Oh, well, that's good. So about 200 pounds for Bella. And now
Yes.
she was 35 inches. Do you think she grew in height at all?
Yes, they both have grown about an inch. So yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, so now we probably have her at about 36 inches or so.
Yes.
And then
Yep.
Scarlett's always been just a smidge bigger. We had her
Yep.
at 180 pounds and 36 inches. So you're thinking she's probably 37
She's
inches and how heavy?
and I would guess about 220 pounds.
Okay. Wow.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. They're growing so big, so fast. Certainly much faster than we do when we're 8 months old
Yes.
or 7 months old.
That is
Wow.
true.
Oh my goodness. So they're hopefully they'll come and get nosy with us here a little bit. But Farmer Jodi, while we're talking about them, do you have any insight on their personality at all? Like was there one that was more camera shy or one that was just giving you all kinds of love or just any personality?
I would say that Scarlet was probably the more ready to come up to me out in the lot to take pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it always seems like when you're out there with a big group of them, the animal that you really want, somebody else comes and stands in front of.
Of course.
So and it's and it's part of the breed too. You know, the Jersey, they're usually very curious
hmm
and very nosy, and they want to see what's going on. And yeah, so
Oh,
that's they're usually
that's
all of them
funny.
are in your face. So
Right. Yep. Now you mentioned that they are jerseys. They
right.
certainly don't look like our typical black and white Holsteins. They're still
Oh no.
cows though, right? So
Oh
what's
yeah.
the difference between them and a Holstein like we might be, more used to seeing?
So a Holstein is, of course, much bigger, and
Hmm
they so and then the color.
hmm
But where you see probably the biggest difference is in their milk. Um,
Oh.
Jerseys don't milk near as much as a Holstein, or typically they don't. You can breed them
hmm
so they milk more, but
hmm
typically they milk less. And things that are in their milk, what we call their components,
hmm
um, so like the butter fat and the proteins, things like that, the
hmm
Jersey will have a higher concentration of that. So when we say like
Gotcha.
their fat is higher, um, a Holstein might be like around a 4, and a
hmm
Jersey could be up around a 5 or a 6. So
Wow.
they have a higher concentration of that butter fat and the proteins.
Hmm. Interesting. Okay, very cool. So I mean, they have different characteristics, kind of like how different breeds of dogs have different characteristics, it sounds like.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
cool. Awesome.
Yep.
So now, as we're looking at them here, we're kind of noticing these yellow tag things in their ears. Can you talk a little bit about what's the importance of an ear tag and how did you get it in their ear?
So it's kind of like for any of you out there that have your ears pierced, that's
Oh, mhm.
basically what the ear tag is. It's just a quick snap and it snaps into their ear.
That's
Um,
cool.
the importance of an ear tag for us is, of course, identity.
Hmm.
So we can
Mhm.
tell, jerseys, well, any animal, it's hard to say, oh, it's the black and white one, or it's the brown one, or it's, whatever color. So these ear tags help us identify, okay, this one is sick, or this one is, needs to be moved to this pen, or this one. So,
Mhm.
it really helps us identify. Um, Other than the tag, we also do a tattoo in their ear.
Hmm.
That also is a good identity factor. It helps us if they lose the tag. We can always go back and look at their ear and we can see that
Right.
tattoo. The tattoo is the same number as their ear tag, so we can
Hmm.
make a new ear tag for them.
Oh, very cool. So, and all of that is really just, I mean, jerseys look a lot alike, right? Now, these two, they happen to have some pretty distinct
Right.
differences, but in a herd of jerseys, as we've seen in some of those group pictures,
Yes.
it's a little difficult to know who's who. So, this is really so you as farmers can help actually
Right.
know who is who, manage them well, be able to
Yes.
take care of them if they're not feeling well, that kind of thing, right?
That's right. That's right. And it
Cool.
helps. Our herd is registered, so that helps. That number that's on their registration paper is also the number that they have in their ear. So we know, our herd is registered, so that helps us keep the animals
Cool.
straight.
Sure. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And then,
Yep.
they've got a little extra bling bling for the rest of their life. So.
Yep. As they get older, when they get older, they'll get another tag put in, so they'll have one in each ear. That way,
Ah.
that way, no matter what direction they're facing or looking, we can
You
see
can
an
see
ear
it.
tag. Yep.
Oh, that's smart. That's smart. Well, they get a lot bigger, so it makes sense to
Yes.
it makes sense to add another one. Oh, look at them,
Yes.
just looking right at the camera there. That was a cute shot.
Yeah. They're doing well now.
Right? We had a question, Farmer Jodi. We were curious, and this is directly about Scarlet, but it can be about both of
Okay.
them. They were curious,
Okay.
when will they be bred so they can start producing milk?
So if they're about 8 months now, we usually start breeding around 1 year of age.
Okay,
And hopefully we can get them bred the first one or two times. Um, and then they'll hopefully they'll calve in by the time they're two.
cool. Okay, so around 2 years old then is when
Yes.
they'll have their first calf.
Yes.
And I think there might have been a question about that. Yes, so Miss Meyensberg was curious, how often do they produce milk? Like, how often do you milk them? So at 2 years old, they have their first calf, which means they start producing milk. So can you talk about the milking process a little bit for us?
So yeah, when we milk twice a day, some dairies will milk 3 times a day, but we just milk twice a day. Typically it's a 12 and 12-hour schedule, but um, you kind of have to adjust to that. I mean, to whatever works for your farm.
Hmm.
We're not on a 12 and 12, so it might be an 11 and 13, so
Hmm.
each farm
Hmm.
kind of can adjust. And the cows will adjust to your schedule so that um, they're not just producing all the time. They know
Sure.
they're very much habit,
Mm.
and
Hmm.
they will get on that schedule and be good with you. So
Yeah, absolutely. So there, and that milking process itself, Farmer Jodi, you use a milking machine, and it's a pretty
yes,
short time frame, right?
yes. From the time they come in the barn till the time they leave is maybe 15, 20 minutes.
Wow.
And that includes, the prepping and
Mhm.
the milking and then the dipping at the end and then the let go. So yeah, it just
Sure.
depends. And some cows milk faster than others, if that makes any sense, or
Hmm.
they milk more, so they take a little bit longer. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's not
Yeah.
a very long time that they're in the barn.
No, and as you mentioned, even in that 15, 20 minutes, that's just some of that's just them standing around waiting and
Yep,
getting prepped and stuff. So the actual
yep.
physical milking time is often just as short as 5 minutes, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's pretty quick.
exactly. Yes, it is. And
Cool.
they Yeah, and it's not painful for them at all. It's more of a relief because,
Hmm.
their udders are full of milk, and
Hmm.
when you milk them, that releases that pressure. So,
Yeah, no, absolutely. Cool. And then they're on their merry way. Now, obviously
Yep.
and they go back to the herd and they can go eat and sleep
Yep.
and they don't really
Eat and
have
drink
much to
and
do all day, huh?
they don't. Well, they do. I mean, they're curious still. They
True.
chew on the wood, they chew on the fences. They sometimes they lick their friends, it's yeah, they're
No.
just cows that they're kind of
Yeah.
silly sometimes.
Yeah. No, they keep themselves entertained, but they're certainly not about to get a checkerboard out or something and play
Oh
checkers. Like
no.
they're
Oh
they're
no.
they're just
Nope.
hanging out and doing their
Yep.
doing their animal things. So,
Yep.
now once the cows are milked, the milk goes into a tank to stay cold. Then where does the
Yes.
milk go after that?
So our milk gets picked up every day. The milk truck comes. When it leaves here on the truck, it goes to Omaha, to the Highland plant usually. Um, and that's where it goes.
Oh, do you have any idea, like a brand name or a store or anything like that, that it would be the end product? Just curious if you happen to know.
So the main brand would be Highland. That's the main brand.
Okay.
But the Highland plant um, will bottle or package, whatever you want to call it, different store brands. As long as you look
Oh,
for that code, each plant has its own code. So if you know
right.
what that plant code is, you can look on your jug of milk or your butter or your cheese or
Hmm,
whatever, and you can see exactly where that number is, and then you can look it up and see where it's processed.
that's cool. Thanks for sharing
Yep.
that. We'll have to take a peek
Yeah.
and see if we can find those codes. I know so I don't know what your state code is, but I know like Pennsylvania's state code is 42, and that's a big thing to know, see if it
Yep.
comes from your state. So
It
we'll have to
is.
look up what your state is and start from there.
I
So
I know that the Highland code is 3108.
3108. Good to
And you can
know.
look and you can look on some of the store brands and look for that 3108 and see some of those also.
Oh, all right. We got to challenge everyone out there. 3108. Look at those store brand bottles of gallons of milk and see if it's
Yep.
coming from Highland. And if it is, it's
Yep.
possible it's coming from Farmer Jody's farm.
Oh
So
yeah.
that's awesome. Let's see. Oh, we have a good question from Miss Hogan. We were curious, does Scarlet have any siblings? And maybe if we can kind of answer that for Bella too.
So okay, Scarlet and Bella, they both are out of heifers. So that means they were both out of
Ah.
first time mamas. So they do not have any siblings yet.
Gotcha, gotcha. So, right, you had said heifers means it's their first time. So,
Yep.
very similar to what they'll be. So, when they have their calf,
Yep.
it'll be about September next year or so, and
Yeah.
they'll be considered a first time heifer having their
Yep.
first baby.
They sure will. So yeah, that was kind of unique this year that we had both. I picked both heifers that had heifer calves. So
Right, yeah, that's cool. We have a good question from Miss Abdallah. We were curious, do you have any idea what the average height and weight is of like a full-grown Jersey?
of a full grown Jersey, I'm not sure on the height, probably around 4.5 feet tall, however many inches that is.
Hmm,
But
hmm.
weight, we usually figure they're around 800 pounds. They're pretty small, eight
Wow.
to 900 pounds. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that's still a lot bigger than what they're at now. So they've got
Yes.
they've got a long way
Yes.
to go till they get there.
They've got a lot of growing to do, and like I say, they'll do it. They, you know how parents will say their kids just grew overnight. Well, that's kind of what happens with calves too. So
True.
they sprout up and they eat, and yeah, that
Yeah.
happens.
Aw. So we obviously these two girls they seem very happy, they seem very healthy, and I'm sure most that's how it goes for almost every farm, right? But of
Right.
course, just like us humans, we get a little cold sometimes, or how do you recognize when a calf gets a little under the weather? What are some signs you can see as a farmer, and what do you do to help them feel better?
So some signs you can look at is, and the most probably obvious one is if you're out feeding the animals and all the animals come up to eat, and maybe one just stays back or just
Mm.
stays laying down.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you can tell that maybe you should need to look at that one a little closer. Their ears kind of droop, and yeah, they just look, and you can tell they might have a little bit of a snotty nose, things like that. It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like humans. I mean, you can tell. when a human's feeling kind of droopy, a cow or a calf will kind of look the same way. Um,
Yeah.
we usually have some medications that can help them. Some farmers use penicillin. There's different medicines for different stages in their life that you
Gotcha.
can give one. You can give heifers certain medicines, but you can't give them to a cow. So
Hmm.
yeah, there's definitely some medicines. We try not to use it too much, obviously,
Sure.
but sometimes you have to make that animal feel better. So
Yeah. Yeah, you want to make sure you can take care of them. And especially when they're really
yes,
little, as a
yes,
calf, they don't have an immune system. So
that's
they
right.
need that extra help to make sure that they can have
Yep,
the best chance at life. Hmm.
yes.
Awesome. We were curious, so we know they'll have their first calf sometime next fall, but how often will they have a calf? Is it like once a month, once a year? Like, what's that look like for a dairy cow?
Typically you aim for once a year. That's kind
Okay.
of that's what they want the standard to be. Um, for our farm, some animals we usually wait after they calve in. We usually will have them cycle at least one time before we start to breed them the next time. So it
Gotcha.
just gives them some time to get over that calving process.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
Mm-hmm.
then might not your breeding might not stick that first time, so you might have to breed them a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
So and then depending on the animal and the weather of you figure out if I breed this animal now, when is it going to calve? Is it going to calve, in the middle of the hot summer or in the middle of the cold, cold winter? Do I
Mm-hmm.
want this animal to calve then? If you have a show herd, if you take them out and show them, you want to plan, is she going to be dry for the show or is she going to be calved in too early for there's a lot of
True.
different factors
Yeah.
of when you breed. So we kind of, we can either carry them over or not. So
Sure. No, it sounds like there's a lot of decisions to be made in that process. But of course,
yes.
the welfare of the animal is always utmost. But
Yes.
it's
Yes.
yeah, it's and it kind of lets you have some wiggle room too,
Yep.
and just some opportunities and options. Cool. Very
Yes.
cool.
Yes.
Um, we had a question about what is their favorite thing to eat right now. So what's their diet look like?
So their diet right now, it's called a TMR, a total mixed ration. So they don't get fed grain or hay individually. It's kind of all mixed up in one big, we call it like a casserole. So it's a
Mhm.
big mixing wagon. It does have hay. It has some corn silage. It has some ground corn. It has a little bit of gluten. For the heifers, they get a little bit of straw in their ration, and they do have a vitamin pack that goes in there too. So yeah, there's a lot of things that are mixed in there together, and I believe that this age of heifer, Ben is still giving a little bit of grain too, just to help them keep growing and look
Okay.
good. So
Wow. Yeah, a TMR, total mixed ration. I think you
yes,
mentioned a casserole, which sounds pretty cool. I think I've heard some people say a salad. They both sound delicious right now. I shouldn't be
yeah,
talking about it while I'm
yeah,
hungry, but um,
yeah.
I mean, it's now, can you talk a little bit about I mean, it sounds like a lot of really great ingredients that goes into this, and it sounds like it's pretty specific what they're eating. Do you work with anybody to help figure out what proportions of all those ingredients that you need to put in?
Yes, we do. We have a feed nutritionist. He comes out, and if we have hay, he can take samples of that hay and send it in and get it analyzed so we know exactly what's in there so that we can adjust other
Hmm.
ingredients to match that hay or that silage quality. Yeah, so we can keep the animals as healthy as we can
Yeah.
and doing the best that they can, whether they're growing or producing milk.
Hmm. Interesting. So a nutritionist helps you out, and I'm
Yes.
sure everyone has heard of a veterinarian. I think there's probably
Yes.
a lot of people that help at your farm. I think actually your nutritionist came as we were right before we hopped on the
Yes.
call. I
I
think you
think he's
said.
still here. Yes.
Yeah. So there's just so many people, outside the farm, beyond just, those who are working on the farm who help make this
Yep.
farm run. And like
Yes.
you said, they're testing the feed. I mean, you're testing the feed, you're mixing the feed to a scientific proportion, and you're feeding them every
Yep.
day. Sounds like they're
Yes.
athletes, Farmer Jodi. I mean, you are like very
Well,
particularly making sure they have the right food.
they are like they're in training. Yeah, we want them to be healthy and if they're eating good ingredients, then they're happy and they're healthy. So
Yeah.
that helps everybody.
Yeah, awesome. We had an interesting question, Farmer Jody, and I don't know that we've ever had anyone ask this one, so I appreciate this one. It's cute. They were curious, do cows ever chew our teeth on anything like humans do? You know, we have to like bring our teeth in and then we have to do it again. Do you ever
Right.
notice, do cows have to teeth or chew?
Well, they're born with some teeth, but they do lose some too.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know if they teeth on anything. As cows and especially as jerseys,
Hmm.
they chew on everything. Like the
All the
jerseys,
time.
like I said, they chew on the wood, they chew on the fences, and I mean they'll chew on a chain. Um, so I don't know if it's really teething or if they're
Right.
just
It's just they're
curious and
curious.
yeah, because they chew on, I don't know, they're chewing their cud right now, or at least Bella or Scarlet
Yeah.
is. Um, but yeah, they will chew. If you have a white fence, it won't be white for long because they'll chew up all the paint.
Oh no, the darn little curious jerseys. Now, you
Yes.
mentioned an interesting word, chewing their cud. Can you talk about what that is and why that's important to see that in a cow?
So chewing their cud, and it sounds gross to people because I mean we don't do this, but in a cow's digestive system or their stomach, they have four different compartments in there, and they
Hmm.
can eat something and it won't go completely through their system. It'll settle, and they can somehow bring that back up. And like she's doing there, it looks like she's chewing gum, but she's
Mm-hmm.
chewing her cud that she has brought back up because she doesn't have any feed in here right now that she is eating. So that's the cud that she has brought back up. And
Interesting.
when they're chewing their cud, that we always take that as a good sign that they're healthy and happy.
Huh.
Because if they're not chewing their cud, then you maybe they're, and they don't chew cud all the time, but uh,
Right.
if you notice them and notice them not chewing their cud,
Right.
maybe they're not feeling great.
Yeah, maybe they have an upset stomach or something. Very
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
Yeah, she really does look like she's chewing down on some bubble gum right now, but she's she's
yeah,
she's just chewing down on her cud because I sometimes people ask like, do cows have multiple stomachs? And they've got four compartments on their stomach that all
right,
do, and we only have one, right? So very
right,
different than
right.
us as humans. And
Yes,
if you look closely, you can watch them like swallow it and bring it back up, and then they start
yes.
chewing
You can see
again.
the lump come up their throat if
Yeah.
if you're watching them. So it's kind of weird.
Well, thank you, Scarlett, for showing us what chewing our cud is. Very nice.
Yes.
Farmer Jody, this has been so much fun getting to see our girls. My gosh, I can't believe they've gotten so big. And they're just so calm and hanging out with us. So thank you so much for
You're
sharing them with
welcome.
us and for spending the time with us today. I wanted to just wrap up with just one final thing. Um,
Okay.
you've mentioned a lot of things that you guys do on the farm to make sure these girls are milked. The older cows are milked every day, and these younger cows, and everyone is fed and it's well taken care of, and it's sun up to sundown. You've got other animals too. It's a lot. So I'm curious what your why is. Why do you guys dairy farm? Why do you do what you do every day? It's definitely not for the faint of heart. I'm just curious what your why is.
It's, it seems like that changes every year.
Hmm.
But the main reason, I mean, I can't imagine a better life than growing up on a farm, and especially a dairy
Yeah.
farm,
Yeah.
where we are in contact with our animals all the time. Every day we are
Yeah.
hands-on with them,
Mm-hmm.
um, and to know that these animals, they are dependent on us for everything, for their housing, for their feed, their
Sure.
health. So it's a really awesome responsibility, and
Yeah.
I know that my kids, they gripe about having to work, but I know that they are the hardest workers, I know, hands down. And I
Yeah.
might be a little prejudiced in that, but they are. They really work hard and they've worked hard, all their lives, so
Years. Yeah.
they know what they're doing. So
Yeah.
I think the biggest why is probably for my kids and,
Yeah.
the future of dairy.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you grow up on a farm, you learn what hard work is pretty quick. You
Yes.
learn what the life cycle is and
Yes.
just yeah, just life things in general. So it's such a neat
Yes.
opportunity, like you said, to have your kids on a family farm like this. But also, I
Yes.
mean, you have a once in a lifetime opportunity of you're feeding the world. You are
Yeah.
producing a really cool, delicious, yummy products, milk, cheese, yogurt, ice cream, all those
Yes.
things that I consume every day, and I'm sure everyone on here does too. I would not survive without dairy in my diet. Just you have that opportunity to say, I made that, I did that, and you're
Yeah.
feeding the world one glass at a time. So. Thank you so much,
Yes.
Farmer Jodi, for your dedication and hard work to dairy farming, and then also, of course, we're a little biased to our two cuties in front of us here. We're excited for them to one day join the milking herd and grow up to be
Yes.
nice, big, strong girls. And who knows, maybe someday maybe they'll have a calf that'll be in the program
That's
someday.
right.
Who knows? So,
Yes.
Aw. Well, thank you, Farmer Jodi, so much. Is there anything else you wanted to share with us before we tune off today?
I don't think so. Just thank you, all you students and all you teachers for taking part in this. I know, it takes time out of your day to bring in a new subject, but I think this is a really great program and
Mm.
really educational and fun. And besides that, you get to look at these two cute calves. So
Aw.
just thank you for taking part in it. And I hope you sign up again for next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Go to discoverdairy.com/adopt and go ahead and get yourself re-enrolled. We'd love to have you join the program again and get to follow along some new calves next year. Thank you all so much for choosing agriculture in the classroom, and we hope you have a wonderful summer. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.